Sweet. So we are now recording. All right, so let's get started. So what we'll be going over during this OPT workshop, we'll go over the basics of what OPT is, how we'll get you through the application process in the I-765, what to expect while you're waiting for your OPT approval, things to remind yourself about while you're on OPT, and just other miscellaneous reminders that are relevant to you. Okay, as I said, ground rules, please submit your questions via the chat at the end, and please refrain from asking case specific questions, okay? We went over that a little bit in the beginning, but just a reminder for that. There is only one of me and there's about 230 of you signed up. So please be patient with me. Okay, so what is OPT? OPT stands for Optional Practical Training. It is a benefit of your F1 visa. So many students believe that while on OPT, they'll need a different visa, but it's actually a benefit of your F1. So you'll still be on your F1 and you'll still continue to follow all of the F1 regulations that come with the visa. Any type of work done on OPT must be in your field of study at your level of study. And for those of you that have done CPT before, OPT is a little bit different where you do not need a job offer to apply. So that leaves you with at least 3 months to find a job before you begin your OPT. So a lot of students are stressed out in the beginning saying, I don't have a job yet. What am I going to do? Don't stress about that because everything will fall through in time. Okay. So you do have a lot of time to find a job. Okay. So now we'll go into the pre-application process. We'll go over if you're eligible for OPT, when you can apply for OPT, how to choose your start date, and a special note for thesis dissertation students as well as summer grads. Okay, so in order to apply for OPT, you have had to complete at least 1 academic year in full-time student status. So that means 1 academic year is a fall and a spring semester. You have to now be currently in valid F1 status, and you have to be in your last semester to be eligible to apply for OPT, or for our PhD and master's thesis students, you have had to complete all of your coursework in order to be eligible. Okay, when to apply for OPT. So we always suggest that you apply as early as possible, and that is 90 days before your program end date. For our spring 2022 grads, that date is May 13th. So you can apply 90 days before May 13th, which is actually February 12th. So this weekend. And you can apply up to 60 days after your program end date, which would be July 12th of this year. So something to keep in mind. As I said before, we urge you all to apply as early as possible because normal processing time usually takes around 90 days and sometimes longer. I will say though that the fall 2021 OPT students that applied, we saw record processing times. Normal times for the fall were about 30 days to 45 days, but this is abnormal, okay? This is shocking for not only the students, but for us advisors, because we've never seen processing times in that short of a window. So it could be the same this semester, or it could be back to the normal of 90 days of processing times. So that is something to keep in mind, okay? The OPT application for ISSO is actually open starting today. So we can process your I-20 requests, but you just won't be able to apply until February 12th, which is this weekend. Okay. Okay, OPT start date. So your OPT must begin 1 to 60 days after your program completion. So as you can see here, 1 to 60 days after you graduate. So the earliest OPT date that you can apply for is May 14th. And the latest OPT start date you can apply for is July 12th. So depending on your specific situation, depending if you already have a job offer, depending on if you would like to go home for a bit after graduation, it's all case specific to the student that's applying, okay? So by riskier start date, we don't mean riskier in the sense that you might not get approved. We mean riskier in the sense that you might not get approval by the earliest start date. So the safer start dates are definitely in late June and early July. But if you want to apply as early as possible and start work in late May or early June, it really is up to you. Please don't ask ISSO if, which start date should I pick? Because we don't know what's best for you in terms of your schedule, your studies, vacation, all that good stuff. So you do have 1 to 60 days after that you can pick your start date. Okay. Okay, OPT start date case study. Tricky Ricky chose the following OPT dates. So he chose to pick his start date 2 days after graduation. So he picked May 16th and his end date would be May 15th. So if everything goes perfectly fine, then Ricky is all set to begin work the following weekend after graduation. But what happens to Ricky if USCIS actually issues his EAD card on June 1st? So USCIS right now, because of COVID, will edit the EAD date to reflect the delayed issuance date. But Ricky won't be able to work until he has that EAD card in his hand and his start date has passed. So his employer might be off by the delay and might even rescind the offer. Not saying that that happens all the time, but it can possibly happen. So we always say that it's better to be safe than sorry. That's why we always recommend applying as early as possible and picking a later start date. So picking a safer start date. So Safe Sam chooses the following OPT dates. Sam picks, the last possible weekend that they can apply for their start date. Safe Sam doesn't have a job offer right away and is worried it might take a while to find one. Sam also wants to take a breather between studying and working, as they should. You guys work super hard, and it's perfectly okay and normal to take a break between graduation and when you'd like to start to work. Sam also doesn't trust USCIS to process their application within 90 days. There is COVID backlog, that could be an issue. So Safe Sam is choosing a safer start date. So what happens if USCIS actually issues her EAD card, a month in advance? So Sam's start date will still show 7/11 on their EAD card, but she cannot work until both she has the EAD start date and she has both the EAD card in her hand and her start date has arrived. So things might have turned up for Sam where she got a job quicker than she expected, and the employer might want her to start as early as possible, but she can't. She has to wait until her start date has arrived. So you've seen the riskier side by having an early start date, and now you've seen the possibilities of having a late start date. So it really is up to you when you'd like to begin your OPT. Okay, so this is Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. It's a Disney movie, which is actually my favorite, and it kind of shows you the devil and the angel. So the devil on your shoulder is telling you, don't you want to start work right away and make that money? Make sure your start date is the day after graduation. But the angel on the other shoulder is saying, you should play it safe and choose a start date with a little more cushion, a little more time for you to chill and relax. So you've seen both sides. Okay. As I said, please do not type in the chat during the presentation. Thank you. Okay. So in choosing an OPT start date, consider the following: average processing times, employer requirements, their onboarding process. Make sure you set time for interviews, job search, time to rest. And just to reiterate, we cannot make this decision for you. It really is a personal decision that you have to make. So remember, you have to select a date within 60 days of your program end date. You have to have arrived at your start date in order for you to work. And we cannot change your requested OPT date after your application has been submitted to USCIS. So that's why we say choose your dates carefully. We cannot change your start date once you send it to USCIS. I want to make that extremely clear because that does come up sometimes where a student will be like, they've submitted their application, but they received a job offer and they want to start a month earlier than their start date. Not going to fly with USCIS nor with ISSO. So that's why choose your start date very, very carefully. Okay, summer 22 graduates. I know there's a few summer graduates that are in this workshop. There is some flexibility on the program end date for you summer grads, depending on what term you complete your program in. So summer term 1 ends June 29th. So we could shorten your program end date to show June 29th, and your start date would have to be between June 30th and August 28th. For those of you that are completing your program in summer term 2, that end date is August 10th. So you would have a start date between August 11th and October 9th. For those of you that are completing your program in summer term 1, we can keep your end date to be summer term 2, but that is something that you need to have a conversation with an ISSO advisor about. So I just wanted to touch on summer grads because I know there are quite a few of you this year. So those are the end dates for both summer terms. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so thesis and dissertation students, you also have flexibility in your OPT start date. You can apply for full-time OPT upon completion of all your coursework. The one thing that we tell our dissertation students, though, is we expect you all to finish your dissertation and defend and wrap everything up within 6 months of your OPT start date. So we've had run into a situation before with many students who kind of get overwhelmed. They're working full time, they still have to finish their dissertation. Time flies, and before you know it, they're at that 6 month mark and they haven't defended their dissertation yet. Don't let that be you, okay? Also, something to keep in mind is all on-campus employment, stipends, gas, health insurance, everything ends by the OPT start date. So if you don't have a job that starts right away, that might be a problem for you. So this is all discretion of ISSO. We may not approve you if you aren't making normal progress towards your degree or if there's a problem with your department. So if you are a thesis or dissertation student, please make an appointment for advising with an ISSO advisor, and we'll talk over your specific case. As I said before, there are time management challenges. It is super hard to work full time and to finish a thesis and a dissertation. Because if you think about it, you're working full time, but you're also working a second full-time job just trying to finish your dissertation. So something to keep in mind. And we cannot extend your I-20 to complete your thesis or dissertation. That is just a hard no. We just won't do it. And you cannot apply for your STEM extension without a copy of your diploma, which won't be available to you if you don't finish your thesis or dissertation. Okay, how to apply. So after this is over, you can actually start to apply for your OPT I-20. You will apply for your I-20 through your ISSO Connect portal. The application is through there. You'll fill out all your information, and we'll also need a recommendation from your academic advisor just stating that yes, you are completing your program requirements this semester and you're all good to go. This academic recommendation doesn't have to, it's not a letter or anything. Students get confused about that. It really is just, you'll type in your academic advisor, they'll receive an email saying, will this student complete everything on time and will they graduate? And all they click is yes, yes, yes. So I always say it's good to give your advisor a heads up that they have this email coming in case they haven't worked with OPT students before. It can be rather confusing for a new advisor if they see this in their email and they don't exactly know what it is. So always good to give them a heads up. I tried to get back your I-20s within 2 to 3 business days, depending on the volume that I receive. Just please be patient. I work my hardest to get everything back to you guys super fast because I know it is stressful and it's an anxious time. So I do my very best to get it back to you all as soon as I can. Once you get your I-20 from me, it's time for you to sign up for an OPT review session. Okay. Something new this semester that we're doing. So in the past, we've always had 2 OPT reviews per week, one Thursday and one Friday. But this semester, we're doing something new where Thursday OPT reviews are for those of you that would like to apply via the traditional paper method. And Fridays are for those of you that want to apply online and want to ask questions about that. So please keep that in mind when you're signing up for an OPT review. If you by accidentally sign up for a review on Thursday, but you're actually applying online, that won't do. I'm not going to answer any questions about the online application on a Thursday and vice versa. So please keep that in mind when you're signing up for your OPT review. Going off on that, so there are 2 ways to apply for OPT. There is the traditional paper method that everyone knows, and there is a new online application that began last spring. So we have a materials guide for the paper I-765, and we've also created a step-by-step guide for filing online. It all depends which way you want to go. And then in the OPT review, we'll go over literally every single section, especially on the paper application, because it can be rather complicated. OPT reviews are meant for you all to feel super comfortable and confident when sending your application off. We have a very, very high record of students being approved, and that's because they attend an OPT review. The students that don't get approved or there's problems with their application, they're usually the ones that don't attend an OPT review and they apply by themselves. Something to keep in mind. So that's why we have those OPT reviews for you. They are super, super helpful. Okay. All right, so these are just some tips for filing the I-765, the paper I-765. Always get the latest version of any of these applications directly from the USCIS website, because they do update them rather regularly. So I wouldn't want you to go to, a blog site or Reddit and get the outdated application that you need. Okay. With your name, make sure everything that you fill out that requires your name is exactly how it's listed on your passport and on your I-20. If you are applying for OPT and you notice, hey, my I-20 name looks different from the name on my passport, let us know immediately and we can easily fix that I-20 for you. But we can't fix that unless you let us know. So we don't want any any changes between those 2 very important immigration documents. Okay. Okay, so I'm sure some of you are asking or want to ask, should I apply online or should I apply via paper? So last semester was the first semester that we kind of recommended the online application as well. We waited a little bit just because we weren't sure how the online application was going to go, but we reached out to many of our partner schools and they were having students apply online and they were having no problems. So that's why we've now recommended the online application as well. There are some things to consider about the online application. Online filing reduces the risk of shipping or payment related issues. Applicants who file online will get their receipt number immediately, whereas in the paper filing, you would get your receipt number within a few weeks. Applicants who file online can save their work and then return to the application later. And the fall 2021 students who reported applying online said it was much easier than expected. And the guide that we created certainly helped them a ton. So that's something to consider if you're thinking about applying online or applying via the traditional method. The ISSO cannot tell you which way to file. It's up to you to do your own research and check it out. I will say though that most students are going to the online side just because it is a bit easier than the paper I-765, but it's up to you. So you do have both options available to you, which is cool. Okay, now we'll go over what to do while waiting on your OPT approval. Okay, so the G1145, that is for students to fill out who are applying via paper. This just allows USCIS to text you or email you that they've received your application, and they'll give you a receipt number. Once you get that receipt number, no matter which way you applied, you can actually check your case status on the USCIS website and see where your application is at. Is it in processing? Is your EAD being issued? So please only check this occasionally. Don't check this every day, especially in the beginning, because you'll go crazy. I would say check it maybe every 2 weeks to see if there's any changes, but definitely don't be looking at this every day. Okay. Okay, EAD card. So this is what your EAD card looks like. It looks just like a license. It'll say the country of birth, what type of work authorization you're on, and when your EAD card is valid from and until. So as we stated, you cannot begin working until you have that EAD card in hand. That's because no matter where you're working, Human Resources Office or your employer in general needs to have proof that you're eligible to work in the US, and this EAD card is that proof, okay? If you happen to move and don't update your address, that's a problem because your EAD card cannot be forwarded because it is federal mail. So that's something to think about if you are planning to move or if your lease is up, if you're graduating. But that's something that we'll go over more in detail in the OPT review if you are applying via paper. So as we said, you can look up your case status. If there is an issue where your EAD card says it was delivered and it wasn't delivered, let us know immediately because we have to jump on that sooner rather than later. Don't email me 2 or 3 months after your EAD card said it arrived, but it never did. Because that's going to make me not fall asleep at night and stress me out. And it's something that we need to fix as soon as possible. Okay. So if any issue is to arise, let me or anyone in ISSO know immediately so we can fix it. Okay. Okay. Other issues when you are waiting for your EAD card. If you have a North Carolina license that expires before your EAD card arrives, you can extend it at the DMV for 60 days. And when you do get your EAD card, make sure you check it to see if there's any typos, any name typos, any date typos, because we want you to have a correct EAD card. So if that happens, let us know so we can tell you how to fix it. If you get an RFE, which means a request for evidence, let us know immediately, okay? So we can see what the RFE states, what they want from you, and we'll help you apply for that, okay? And if you're rejected, please let us know. But just so you know, that is very rare that someone is rejected. So don't put that in your head. It is very rare, but just basically just let me or anyone in ISSO know like when anything happens to you. Okay, managing stress. This is my favorite slide. Okay. So good ideas to manage the stress, okay? Exercise, spend time on your hobbies, prepare your resumes and cover letters, work on interviewing skills, and focus on the positive things in life. Do not check your case status every day. Be in a rabbit hole on Reddit that was from 15 years ago that says, EAD cards aren't being issued anymore. Read credible websites only, please. Don't think about the what ifs. That can lead you down a dark road. Do not call USCIS every day, especially if it's only been, like a month since your application was sent. And please do not listen to your friends about OPT. Don't listen to people on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook. Listen to us, the pros, okay? Listen to your DSOs, because everyone's immigration case is vastly different. So something that could have applied to your friend at another school might not apply to you. So that is something to keep in mind, okay? We don't want you to end up like this, okay? We want you to end up like this. Okay, so while you're on OPT, so these are just reporting requirements. Okay, so after your EAD start date has arrived, within 2 weeks, you should receive an email invitation to create your SEVP portal account. This account is how USCIS will track you and your employment. It is very, very important that you update this within 10 days of any changes. For example, if you left an employer and started a new job, if you changed your address because you moved, you have to update this within 10 days, okay? So you'll receive that account link to make your portal account. Create it right away, even if you don't have a job yet, because that link will expire if you don't create your account right away. So that is certainly something to keep in mind, okay? Create that account right away. Sometimes CVIS is tricky and it doesn't send that email invitation right away. Sometimes it has problems when it triggers those emails. If it's been like 10 days and you still don't have your portal account link to create, please just email me. I can easily go into CVIS and just send you that link. So please remember to do that. Your SEVP portal account is the most important reporting requirement while you're on your 12 months of OPT. Okay, as I said, report within 10 days of the SEVP portal whenever you've made any changes. So if your work site address has changed, and if you've had personal changes made, so address, phone number, if you've changed jobs. Something to remember, because we do get this question a lot, a new I-20 is not generated for you when your employment is updated, okay? You might have friends at other schools that do get a new I-20 whenever they report a new employer, but that's actually not needed. Regulations state that it's unnecessary. And with the population that we have at UNC Charlotte, I would be creating I-20s all day long, 24 hours a day. So that is something to remember. You will not get a new I-20 once you update any sort of change in your SEVP portal. Your portal is not controlled by ISSO, by the way. It's all up to you to report those changes. Okay, so unemployment. You do get 90 days of unemployment time during your 12 months of OPT. So those 90 days are in the 12 months of OPT, and they start counting as soon as your start date on your EAD card arrives, okay? These 90 days are there for you in case you need a cushion of time. For example, if you leave a job because it's just not working out, those 90 days of unemployment time are there for you. So you can find time to find a new job or whatever the reason. Okay. Your employment must be 20 plus hours per week in your field of study. Okay. Please don't be, like an exercise science major, and then I find out you're like trading stocks on Wall Street, because that just won't fly. And it won't fly with the ISSO and it won't fly with USCIS. So please make sure that it does relate to your program requirements, what you learned in your program, and just your field of study overall. Okay. Unpaid internships do count. If you can't find a job yet, but someone is offering you an unpaid internship, and that company is legit, then yes, totally fine. You can do that. You can be self-employed, but I will say you will have to jump through a few hoops in order to report that. And if you do want to be self-employed, we always say, contact an immigration attorney that has experience with that, because it is very rare for us to see a student that goes that route. Okay. And obviously paid employment, you obviously want to be paid for your OPT job when you can be. Okay. You are allowed to have more than one employer, and you can change employers at any time. So you're not stuck with that one employer for 12 months if something isn't working out the way that you thought it would. Keep all your employment offer letters for just personal filing purposes. It's just good to have if down the line you are applying for an H-1B or for a green card. It's always good just to save all your documents and have those on hand. Okay. And employment starts the first day of work. It doesn't start the day that you get an offer letter. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind when you're updating your SEVP portal. If for whatever reason you go over those 90 days of unemployment time, that is a major violation of your status, and you will have to depart the US immediately. Okay. If for whatever reason you choose to stay in the US after you violated your unemployment time, and USCIS finds out and they do more research on you, you could easily be banned from the US for up to 10 years and face a fine. So that's something to think about. I don't want to scare you, but it is very important that you correctly report everything when it comes to your OPT. Okay, so traveling outside the US on OPT, I'm sure a bunch of you will want to travel home in between graduation and your OPT start date. Super cool, super fine. All we ask is that you've already been approved for OPT, you already have your EAD card in hand, and you have that employment offer letter if you are going to leave the US, okay? So along with those two new documents that you need to carry, you have to carry your normal documents too. So a valid passport, that's at least 6 months into the future, a valid F1 visa, and an I-20 signed within the past 6 months. So the one thing to remember about being on OPT is that you'll need a travel signature every 6 months. Right now, while you're enrolled, you'll only need a travel signature once a year, but on OPT, it has to be within 6 months. And that I-20 travel signature is very easily found on our website. And we try to get them back to you as soon as possible, but please give us at least 5 business days before we can issue that to you. Okay. Okay, can you study while on OPT? No. You're on OPT for a reason, right? Because you want to start working, you want to show and use what you use in your program now in the work field, okay? So you absolutely cannot start a new degree program. You cannot enroll anywhere part-time. Trying to study while on OPT, that means that the US government will have to terminate your EAD card because you're violating those OPT requirements, okay? OPT is for work and not study, okay? If you do want to start a new program after your OPT is over or before your OPT ends, just let us know. We can easily transfer your record to another university, or if you want to come back to UNC Charlotte, we can easily change your level and issue you a change of level I-20. Okay. If you want to participate in any like community ed classes, for example, like tennis lessons, pottery classes, you know, that's totally fine, but we don't want to see you back in a full-on classroom studying, doing homework, trying to take classes part-time. Okay. Okay, paying taxes. This is my least favorite subject in the world. We are approaching tax season right now, so we are receiving many inquiries about taxes. Just a general FYI, you do not want to ask any tax questions to anyone in the ISSO because we're straight up just not tax professionals. We're not accountants. You don't want me, you know, messing with numbers in my head because I'm just not for that. So we can try to answer basic questions for you, but when you are employed in the US and you are receiving a paycheck, you will have to file taxes at some point, okay? And when you do receive that first paycheck, make sure all your information is correct so you don't have problems down the road. We do have a partnership with a tax software. You can pay $3 for it. And it kind of takes you step by step on what you need to submit for your taxes. But if you have more complex questions, it's always good to reach out to a tax professional or an accountant. So please remember that. And we have all this info on our taxes page on our website if you want to look more into that. Okay. Yeah, so just to reiterate, we cannot answer tax related questions. Reach out to the IRS website for more details. But your human resources office is definitely a great resource for you if you have any questions about your paycheck and taxes, all that good stuff. Okay, so a year from now, your OPT is ending. What should you do? Well, you do have options, okay? You do have a 60-day grace period after your EAD card expires. So in that 60 days, you can stay in the US, but once you leave, you can't work or re-enter the US in F1 status. So once you're gone, you're gone. We can also transfer your F1 record to another university. For example, if you just completed your bachelor's and you want to start your master's somewhere else, that's totally cool too. We can transfer your CVIS ID to another school. Just remember that you do get 12 months of OPT per degree level. And if you qualify for the STEM extension, you'll get 2 added years on top of that. But let's not talk about the STEM extension because all of you are pretty far away from that. Cap gap work authorization for a period of time between the end of OPT and your start date of H-1B, you can continue to work. And you can apply for your STEM extension if you are eligible for that before your EAD card expires. So that is a 2-year extension on top of your 1 year of OPT. Okay, having an ethical job search. This is important information because it's important for you to realize that when you go for a job interview, you're not only representing yourself, but you're also representing UNC Charlotte, you're representing your fellow peers, and you're representing the international students at UNC Charlotte too. So if you are faced with an offer you are unsure about, it's totally normal to ask the employer for about, a few days for you to consider the offer. If you do make a decision, please stick with it. It's not fair if you accept a job offer with a company and then 3 weeks later, you've signed the contract and everything, and then something else comes up and you're like, I'm going to ditch this company for this other company. Because that will be aggravating for the employer. Please don't, for example, don't begin working for an employer for almost, for a month. And then you're like, I've received a better offer, so I'm going to go with that. Because that looks bad, not only on you, but on us. So please keep that in mind when you are job searching. It's not all about the money. There's other things to consider as well. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me for that presentation. That was a good hour long. I'm sorry I'll never get that hour back, but I hope it wasn't too painful for you. Now I will be taking questions, but please be patient with me. As I said, I am one person and I'm sure I'm going to get about a bajillion questions. Okay, so I will try to answer as many as possible. Let me send my email in the chat. If you do want to reach me, please email me directly. For example, if I don't get to your question or something comes up, then please email me. I'm here for you all. Okay, so please, okay, you can start typing in the chat if you have any questions. And I will begin to answer them. Okay. Okay, Hardik, please make an appointment for advising. That is a case-specific question. Yes, as I stated in the presentation, you can have more than one employer during OPT. If you want to have more than one employer during your STEM extension, both of them have to be e-verified. So that's something to keep in mind. When applying for OPT, are international addresses allowed? They are not. Your EAD card has to be sent to a US address. And we'll talk about that in the OPT review if you are ending your lease or you are planning on moving. Yes, this will be shared on our OPT page. This recording will be shared. And yes, the presentation will be shared as well. So you guys can go through it if you need it to reference. And yes, we will upload that. Yes, you can sign up for an OPT review session immediately after submitting your OPT application. That's totally fine. I will say if you submit today, I don't know if I'll be able to get you your I-20 by tomorrow, but you don't need your I-20 to sign up for an OPT review. FISA, that seems like something you need to clear up with your employer. Probably the human resources office could answer that question for you. If for whatever reason an employer needs you to show proof of authorization while your application is pending, you can show them a copy of your notice, your I-797, which will show that you've applied for OPT and your application is pending. If your I-20 expires, so yes, we will be shortening your program end date to either this semester or over the summer. That's fine if your I-20 is shortened and it's expired. You can show that OPT approval, which will be on your second page if anyone were to question you, and you will have your EAD card. If you have an F1 visa that is expiring or it is expired, you can still apply for OPT. But if you do leave the country, you will have to have a new F1 visa to re-enter. Varun, that is a question for your company and your attorney that's applying for your H-1B. The ISSO does not answer H-1B questions. Once in the OPT. We're getting questions about the STEM OPT extension. You guys are thinking about a year and a half in advance. You can start applying for your STEM OPT extension 90 days before your EAD card expires. But do not think about your STEM OPT extension right now because none of you have been approved for OPT. So let's get through that hurdle first. If you do want to travel after graduation, I highly suggest applying as early as possible so you make sure that you have that EAD card in hand when you re-enter. No, CPT is only for enrolled students. So once you your program's completed and you're still waiting for OPT approval, you cannot apply for CPT and start the job. That's why we say apply as early as possible. If someone has an offer that starts April 1st, there's no way that you can actually work full time. Your OPT is for post completion. So that means your program has to be over in order for you to be approved for it. You could possibly apply for CPT though. So that's something to sign up for advising for. Yes, you can work anywhere in the US while you're on OPT. It does not have to be in the Charlotte area. Self-employment would consider to be making a startup, yes. And as I said before, you'll want to contact an immigration attorney about that. If you're deciding between OPT and an H-1B, I mean, I always say employers love students that are on OPT because that means they don't have to file for sponsorship for them right away. But if you do receive a job offer before graduation, you'll just have to adjust the start date for that. Raghuvir, please sign up for advising. There is no maximum amount of hours you can work on OPT. You just have to work for more than 20 hours. So there's no max cap on how many hours you can work. No, you cannot apply for OPT from outside the US. You have to be in the US to apply for OPT. Himadri, in order for you to be able to work for an employer on your STEM extension, they have to be e-verified. So check with them if they are e-verified. Does traveling home for a bit count in your 90-day unemployment limit when you already have your EAD card? We always suggest that if you do plan to travel home, that you do it before your start date, but when you have your EAD card in hand. But if you choose to travel during your 12 months of OPT and you're employed, then no, that doesn't count during towards your 90-day unemployment. You can submit the I-20 application. You can go to our OPT website and how to apply. You'll see it right there. It's a big green button, and that's how you submit your I-20 request. Yes, your OPT can get approved even if you don't have a job offer. Like I said, you do not need a job offer to apply for OPT. That can come later on. We always say apply as early as possible. In terms of when is a good time to apply for OPT. No, you don't have to complete the I-765 before the OPT review. For the paper OPT review, we will go through every single question that you need to answer, so you can type in whatever you need to while we go through it. But I always say it is always good to take a look at it before we do the OPT review, just so you're comfortable with what we're going over. You do not need a social security number to apply for OPT. If you don't have a social security number, a great thing about the OPT I-765 is that they'll ask you if you need a social security number. And if you do, you'll give your information. And then they will actually send you your social security card in the mail. So you don't have to go to the Social Security office and stand in those boring lines. They will actually send that to you to your house. So that's one positive of applying for OPT if you don't already have a social security number. Do we have to stay in the US between the OPT application and until we receive the EAD card? Yes, we highly, highly recommend that you stay in the US while your application is pending. If you do leave, there is a chance that USCIS can check your I-94 record and think that you've abandoned your application because you've left the US. But we do understand emergencies do happen. So if that is the case for you, an emergency comes up, reach out to ISSO. No, applying for OPT on the UNCC website is not applying for OPT officially. So applying for OPT on our website, that just means you're requesting your OPT I-20. Yes, credit cards are accepted. US credit cards are accepted if you do want to pay with a credit card. Also, you can pay directly from your bank account if you just have your bank account and routing information for the online application. For the paper application, we always recommend that you use a money order. If you have any questions about OPT, yes, you can sign up for an advising appointment. You might not get me, but everyone on staff is well-versed in OPT and everyone can answer your questions. If you want to talk to me specifically, just email me. I'm always here for you all. The tax program that's available for students, it's called Glacier Tax Prep. If you go on our website, pretty sure it's under current students, you go down and you'll see taxes and all that Glacier Tax Prep information is on there. And that's how you sign up to get the code for that as well. Praneeth, sign up for advising. That's a case specific question. Yes, you can apply for CPT and OPT at the same time. You can apply for CPT right now. That's totally fine. Yeah, so you can apply for CPT and OPT at the same time. OPT counts as visa sponsorship, yes. So if you do qualify for your STEM extension, then that is 3 years of employment sponsorship that you can provide to an employer, and they don't have to sponsor you. But when you are applying for jobs and they do ask you the question if you will need visa sponsorship in the future, yes, you will. For those of you that are applying, for those of you that are completing your degree over the summer, depending on when you want us to end your program, if you want us to shorten your program to be the first summer term or the second summer term, you have to apply for OPT 90 days before then. Yep. So if you have specific case questions, feel free to sign up for advising. We offer 10-minute appointments right now. All our advising is over the phone because of COVID, but we hope to offer in-person advising maybe in March. But yeah, sign up for an advising appointment. You'll get 10 minutes of our time and you can ask your case specific questions on there. To sign up for advising, just go on our website. On the homepage on the left-hand side, you will see contact us and you'll see how to sign up for advising on there. Start date means when you want your EAD card to show that you can now work and now you have employment authorization. So you can have an EAD start date that starts, June 1st, but you actually you won't be starting your actual job until like June 15th. That's totally fine. Can you re-enter the US with an EAD card without a job offer? It can go either way. It all depends on the customs officer you get at customs. We highly suggest that you have a job offer letter with you when you re-enter the US if you are traveling before your OPT authorization starts and during your OPT authorization. But it's up to you. Yes, the company that you work for can relocate you during OPT. For STEM extension, so you have 90 days of unemployment time during OPT, and that can add on to the 60 days you get during the STEM extension. So you have the possibility, if you don't use any of your 90 days during your first 12 months of OPT, you have 150 unemployment days on the STEM extension. I don't think I can save the Q&A on its own, but this part will be part of the recording. So if you want to go through these Spitfire questions that I'm answering, just go, you'll see the YouTube video and just go towards the end. You can apply for OPT on our website. One second. Let me send the link to you all. Right here. So this is our homepage. This is where you can sign up for advising. Employment and internships. This is where you'll find all the OPT goodies. And this is how you'll find how to apply for your OPT I-20 right here. So let me link this in the chat. Okay, let's go back to these questions. Where was I? So OPT review session, once we process your I-20, you'll get a automated email that shows how you can sign up for the OPT review. Monsi, yes, this presentation and recording will both be on the OPT website. I'll hopefully be able to download this and put everything on the website by tomorrow. There won't be an OPT workshop for summer term graduates. We will also have a second OPT workshop that's in person in a month if you want to attend that. But this recording will be available to any summer graduates as well. Yes, you can apply for OPT today and have your start date be June 20th. That's totally fine. Can you complete any certifications while on OPT like PMP? I'm not exactly sure what that is. Sign up for advising. You cannot apply for OPT if your passport is expired. No, your passport has to be valid within for at least 6 months into the future. You can apply for CPT outside the US, I believe, but if you're outside the US, CPT is only for doing an internship in the US. Yes, you can apply for OPT today and choose your start date to be July, the last possible day in July. That's totally fine. Can you work from outside the US if your work is 100% remote? You can be outside the US, I think, for a maximum of like 4 to 5 months if you are on OPT. But if you are planning to go back to your home country and work for a US company, then OPT isn't for you. So the very first step, if for those of you that want to apply right away, is to apply for your OPT I-20. All OPT review sessions are on Zoom. To apply for OPT, the cost is $410. Yes, this will be, this recording will be uploaded on the website, yes. Summer grads, you can apply for OPT as early as 90 days before your program end date. Kareem, I don't know anything about state taxes. Contact a professional. Yes, of course you can email me if you have a case specific question. 90 days of unemployment time is not counted consecutively, so you can take 20 days of unemployment time in November and then take a few unemployment days in June. It doesn't have to be a consecutive 90 days, but it can be if that's your case. If you plan to work for less than 3 years, do you say yes to needing sponsorship? If you apply and are eligible for the STEM extension and you only want to work for 3 years, then I would say no, because you won't need sponsorship if in fact you're planning to leave, but you never know where life will take you. Can someone travel abroad after applying for EAD and re-enter before the graduation date? No, we don't recommend that you leave the country while your EAD card and your OPT is pending. I'm not going to go through the application one by one now. No, that is for OPT review. Yes, your employer can start the H-1 process during your OPT. Yeah, you don't need an H-1B if you are on your STEM extension. If your STEM extension is ending, then yes, your employer can definitely sponsor you for an H-1B. Carlos, sign up for advising. What should be the recommended end date while applying for OPT application? Should it be 1 year from the start date? Yep, so your EAD end date will be 1 day less than your start date. So for example, if you choose June 2nd, 2022 as your start date, your end date would be June 1st, 2023. Yes, it does cost money to apply for OPT. The only way that your CPT will affect your OPT eligibility is if you've done 12 months on full-time CPT, which we don't allow really at UNC Charlotte. So shouldn't be a problem for all of you. So the max is actually not 90 days for processing time. The average is definitely between 3 months. The average time is about 3 months of processing time, but it can take up to 5 months. So you never really know. That's why we say apply as early as possible in case processing times are slow or something else happens. For the I-765 submission, should we submit the form before the review session? No, do not submit your online application until you attend an OPT review with me, okay? I just want to make sure everything that you're sending is correct. Even if you use the guide, I just feel better if I check your work. Okay. I plan to apply for master program. Fun, I'm not sure if you're saying that you're applying like admissions to a master's program for fall 22, if you're applying for an OPT workshop. I mean, OPT approval. Yes, if you have two employers, you can work for both of them 40 hours a week, but don't you want to have a life? MD, sign up for advising. Okay, is there any more questions? That was a solid half hour of wonderful, great questions, everyone. You guys keep me on my toes. If you submit the I-20 request today, is it possible to have a review session this Friday? Yes, you can sign up for an OPT review session this week. I might not have your I-20 to you by that time, but yes, you can sign up for a review session without your I-20 yet. Alrighty, my OPT angels, you are now ready to spread your wings and apply for your I-20. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. Let me send my email again. If for whatever reason you do need to contact me. So thank you all for attending. I know this is a lot of information and it's not exactly the most fun information to listen to, but thank you for attending. I promise that we do our very best in ISSO to make sure you're fully prepared and confident to send your OPT application out. So thank you all for coming, and I will be in touch with all of you this semester, I'm sure. I will update the OPT page tomorrow, where you can apply for an I-20. Under there, you'll see application resources. I will have the presentation, the PowerPoint, and this recording as well. So be on the lookout for that. But other than that, thank you all for coming. You're all rock stars, and your OPT season is going to go great. Be positive. Thank you all.